The Radio Memories Network is brought to you in part by Liberated Syndication. Podcast publishing made easy. Libsyn.com. That's Libsyn.com.
You are standing on a bridge over Owl Creek, a noose around your neck. You have but a few seconds left to live, a few seconds left to plan your escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully contrived to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight, we escape to the war between the states and a muddy stream in Alabama, as we recall one of the great short stories in American literature, An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge by Ambrose Bierce.
A man stood upon a railroad bridge in northern Alabama, looking down through the ties at the swift water 20 feet below. The man's hands were behind his back, the wrist bound with a cord. A rope closely encircled his neck. It was attached to a stout cross timber above his head, and the slack fell to the level of his knees. He watched a piece of dancing driftwood racing down the current beneath his feet. He thought,
if I could just free my hands, I might throw off this noose and dive into the creek. If I swam underwater, I'd be safe from their bullets. If my wind held out, I could make the southern bank, take to the woods, and get away home.
Peyton Farquhar, Alabama planter, stood at the end of a plank. A captain of the Union Army and a sergeant stood at the other end. When they stepped aside, the plank would tip upward, and Peyton Farquhar, Confederate spy, would slip between the ties to hang above the muddy water of Owl Creek until dead. Even in this far outpost of Sherman's march to the sea, the formalities of death are observed by these men who are most familiar with him. The captain's company is drawn stiffly at attention along the tracks on the northern side of the bridge. The lieutenant stands erect on the bank of the stream, the point of his bared saber scraping the gravel on the roadbed. Peyton Farquhar is being ushered into the Confederate beyond with every Union amenity. The captain stands aside. Now only the weight of the bulky sergeant counterbalances Peyton Farquhar at the end of his thin board.
They say that this is the moment when all the past events of your life tumble into your memory. But how could anyone know? Who has come back from the dead to tell what dying is like? I don't recall any childhood memories now. The past does not engulf me in this naked moment. I'm only aware of what's here, now. Those Yankees lined up on the bank. His captain's tired eyes. That turkey buzzard circling up there, waiting for me. And that noise. That beating, driving sound like a distant engine. A pump. The roll of thunder on a summer evening. Coming closer. Getting louder. Choking me.
It's your heart, of course, that you hear, stepping up its cadence, pounding under the forced draft of fear. Now you see nothing, remember nothing, sense nothing, but this strangling, suffocating beat of your own heart, throbbing its final protest. You stand there, erect.
The work is nearly at an end now. The captain draws his sword, flourishes it to a carry, sings out a command.
Company! Parade! Rest!
The men on the bank smartly spread their legs, thrust hands forward over the rifle barrels. The sergeant on the end of the plank takes one step to the left, The plank tips forward. And Peyton Farquhar drops between the timbers of Owl Creek Bridge.
It takes longer to tell it. As you drop downward, you lose consciousness. You are as one already dead. Then you awaken sharply in pain to feel, not to think, just to feel. The cutting pressure on your throat, the agonies of pulsating fire shooting from your neck downward. To feel the fullness, the congestion, the head bursting with suffocation. Distantly, beyond, outside of yourself, you hear a splash. Remotely you sense cool, wet, green darkness. The rope has broken. You have fallen into the stream. Now thinking returns slowly. You know for the moment you are safe from drowning because the rope around your neck tightly keeps the water from your lungs.
Then I shall die hanging at the bottom of a river. And that's absurd. If I could get my hands free. I must get my hands free. Come, Peyton. They can't lick you. Try again. Once more. Good boy, the rope's given. Again. Try once more. That does it, my boy. Now, the rope around your neck. You must breathe when you come to the surface. You must breathe quickly. For if they haven't hanged you and they fail to drown you, you can't let them shoot you. Loosen that rope around your neck. You must get it loose. Now.
It takes so much longer to tell. You are now in the fullest possession of your senses, and again time stops. You feel the ripples of the water upon your face, and hear their separate sounds as they strike. You see the trees on the bank, and the leaves, and the veining of each leaf, and the very insects on them. The locusts, the brilliant-bodied flies, the gray spiders stretching their webs from twig to twig, the prismatic colors of the dewdrops upon a million blades of grass. You hear the humming of the gnats, the beating of the dragonfly's wings, the strokes of the water spider's legs. A fish slides beneath your eyes, and you hear the rush of its body parting the water. All this you see and hear in an incalculably infinite instant of time. Then you hear something else.
There he is! Down there, the best company! Let's come! Shout a hunt! Ready! Hey!
You dive deeply, but above the ringing in your ears, you hear the volley of the rifles. And as you rise toward the surface, you meet shining bits of metal, singularly flattened, the distorted and spent bullets, oscillating slowly downward past you. One catches in your collar, and it feels uncomfortably warm. You snatch it out. And this gray piece of Yankee lead reminds you of the gray uniform of the soldier who is responsible for you being here. You recall that it was only night before last when the soldier had ridden up the driveway as you and your wife sat under the magnolia trees in the cool twilight.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Corporal.
Wonder if I might trouble you for a glass of water, sir.
Why, of course,
Don't disturb yourself, Peyton. I'll go fetch it.
You're most kind, ma'am. If you'll just indicate the well...
Nonsense. You just sit a spell with my husband. You look as if you could do with some rest.
Yes, ma'am. Reckon I could.
I'll be back in a jiffy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Whose command are you with, Corporal?
Colonel Tolliver, sir. 13th, North Carolina.
We get so little news down here. How are things going at the front?
Not good, sir. The Yankees are getting ready for another advance. They're repairing the railroad. Got it in shape almost to Owl Creek Bridge. And they got an outpost there.
A fiery horse with the speed of
Once
light,
they
a
can
cloud
run
of
the
dust,
trains
and a hearty
beyond the
high-o
bridge,
silver.
there's nothing to stop
The
them
Lone
between here and
Ranger.
Atlanta.
Then why hasn't the bridge been destroyed?
The military couldn't get near it. A civilian might.
Owl Creek Bridge. That's not far from here, is it?
Less than 20 miles.
This is the
You
legend
say
of a
they
man
have
and
an
a horse,
outpost there.
and how they met.
On which side?
The story of the
Other
Lone
side.
Ranger and his great horse,
Nothing
Silver.
on this side but a couple of pickets. Half mile out on the railroad. And a single sentinel at this end of
The
the
Lone
bridge.
Ranger and Tonto
And that
made
bridge
the worst
is
outlaw
important.
in the West.
Sure
His
is.
name was Butch Cavendish.
What if it would
They
destroy?
followed his trail for many
Hold
weeks.
up the Yankees
until
for
finally,
several weeks.
they noticed that the
Suppose a
hoofprints of the
man,
outlaw's horse
or
were
a
fresh.
civilian like myself, should elude the picket post and
Yes,
get
Tonto.
the better
You
of
can't
the
be far
sentinel.
ahead.
What could he accomplish?
Last time.
Well, I
Maybe
was
better
there
we
a
shoot
week
from
ago,
No.
just
I wanna
before
take
we
him
had to
alive.
pull out.
That shot.
There's a heap of
Steady there,
driftwood
steady,
come
boy.
down in last
Over
winter's
there.
flood.
Killer in ambush
Caught on the
right
trestle
way.
at this
Tonto,
end.
he missed me, but he shot my horse. Get
Mighty
after
dry
him.
and tender to me.
I see.
Tonto's horse was tired
fellow
and
with
no
enough
match in
gumption
speed
might
for the
get
animal
through
Cavendish
and set
rode.
fire
The
to it.
outlaw escaped.
It ought to
When Tonto
burn like
returned from the
toast.
futile
Yes,
chase,
it should.
he found the Lone
course, a
Ranger
fella's
standing
have to have
beside
plenty
his
of
dead
gumption.
horse.
A good horse, Tonto.
The Union
Loyal,
commanders promised to
faithful,
hang
and
any
brave.
civilian caught
But my
fooling
next horse
around
must
the
be
railroad.
faster.
Here's your water,
I wish that...
Right out of
Tonto,
the spring house.
We've heard
Thank you
stories of
kindly,
a
ma'am.
wild horse, a fiery white stallion.
Him
My
seen near valley
schooling
over there,
house.
where
And here's
Cavendish
a
goes.
smidgen of
We'll
corn.
be on the lookout for the wild
I
horse while
thought
we
you
follow
might be
Cavendish.
hungry.
I'm mighty grateful, ma'am. It's ladies like you that keeps the South together and fighting these days.
My, what a nice
Tonto's
country.
horse carried the Lone Ranger's
Well, I reckon I
saddle,
better
his
hit the
saddlebags, and bridle,
I got a lot
while
of
the masked
riding.
man and the Indian continued
Good
on
luck
foot
to you,
along the
Corporal,
outlaw's
and
trail.
thank you for the
When they reached the
information.
top of a hill,
You've been taking a chance, sir.
they halted
couldn't
suddenly
do a
and
greater
stared
service
at
for
an
your country.
I
awe-inspiring
remember
sight
that,
far down in the
Corporal.
valley.
Goodbye, ma'am.
Goodbye, Corporal.
Goodbye,
They
sir.
saw a great white
Many thanks.
stallion in a
Bye.
death fight with a giant buffalo. The horse was plunging, rearing, charging, and dodging wildly, and the
What
sun
was he
flashed from his
talking
coat
about?
as from a coat of
What, my
polished
dear?
silver.
Corporal.
They realized
What
that
did he
this
mean
was
by
the legendary white
service
stallion,
to your
the one
country
ranchers and hunters had
and
talked so
taking a
much about.
chance?
Tonto, we must have that
You
horse.
can tell me.
I'll try to shoot the
It
buffalo.
was nothing, really.
Fire for pistol shot.
Listen,
I'll get
Corporal, if
closer
you're
before it's
fixing
too
to
late.
take any chances
As he
for our
ran
country, I
downhill,
want
the
to
Lone
know.
Ranger watched
Now,
the
you
battle.
just speak
The
to
sleek
us.
white stallion was nimble and
Nothing
courageous.
to say,
When his strength
except-
began to wane, the buffalo charged
wait
again
for
and
this,
again.
come on,
The
let's
splendid muscles of the white horse were slower in responding,
Is it
then too slow.
dangerous
He was
to
caught by the buffalo's charge.
very.
Wet crimson stained his pure white coat.
Is it-
Another charge. The
Yes,
white horse saw it coming, and he couldn't dodge.
I promise.
He staggered and fell. The monster drew back and lowered his head for the death charge. And then 2 shots rang out. The buffalo shuddered from the impact of the masked man's bullets. For an instant, he
You
stood
break the
motionless.
surface of Owl Creek for a
Then
second time.
fell.
And now you're much further downstream, further away from the Union soldiers on the bridge reloading their guns, the ramrods flashing in the morning sun.
That captain won't make the same mistake again. He'll order them to fire at will. Heaven help me, I cannot dodge him.
Another more terrible sound, cannon. They've trained a cannon on you.
And close. Next time they'll use a charge of grape. Rifles and grape covering the water from bank to bank. I'm done for then.
Then something seemed to grab you, and you're whirled round and round, spinning like a waterlogged top. You're caught in a vortex, a whirlpool. The water, the banks, the distant bridge, the soldiers become indistinct blurs. And again you're helpless. You feel dizzy and sick to your stomach. Just as you felt last night when you crept up the bank toward the lone sentinel on the south end of the bridge and discovered that the sentinel was not
I wonder
alone.
if
There he is, boys. Grab him.
Let's try.
Ah, well, Mr. Peyton Farquhar, we've been expecting you.
How did you know my
We
name
got
was...
ways.
No, Tonto,
But
wait.
look here, I'm a
There you
civilian.
go.
I
Save
was
your
just...
breath. Thank your maker we didn't shoot you in the back.
But he
We don't do
deserves his
things that
freedom.
way up
He
north.
fought for it.
You'll get a trial. Everything fair and square.
He's turned to look at us.
Bring him along, man.
See how he's...
The whirlpool spins faster and faster. A sharp piece of driftwood tears at your coat. The churning brown water chokes you. You know there is nothing you can do. As you have known it last night, when they shoved you into a tent near the bridge to face the infantry
coming
captain
back.
with the tired eye.
Just as if he knew what I said.
There he is, sir. Right on schedule.
Silver!
Sergeant. Is this the man,
Silver, you beauty.
That's him.
What?
Hand me the halter.
You're the corporal who stopped at my plantation last
As the
night.
mighty stallion
That's right,
held
Mr.
the
Farquhar.
halter, he trembled
But I'm
as
not
if
with the
from a
13th
chill.
North Carolina
Every instinct
Volunteers.
told him that he
Farquhar,
must
this
flee
is
at once to
Lieutenant
preserve his
Saltonstall,
freedom.
intelligence
And yet he
officer,
stood his
5th
ground.
Massachusetts Regulars.
It wasn't
trapped me.
gratitude that kept him there.
You deliberately
It was
led me
something
into a trap.
stronger, some
I'm a
mysterious
civilian in a
bond
plant.
of
Yes,
friendship
and
and
also a
understanding.
Southern patriot.
He heard the
Not
man's
on the act
voice.
of espionage.
and
Can't
he
prove
liked
it.
We don't have to.
Silver.
This is the most
Silver.
despicable, the most...
We're going to be
This
partners.
proves once more that honor is a stranger in the North.
I'm too tired to listen to a recital of the code of a Southern gentleman, Mr. Farquhar. I'm afraid the distinction between your ethics and my
Never
lack
was
of
a
them will
horse
escape
like
me
this.
this evening.
But why have you done this? Why have you deliberately trapped
The horse was
The
wild
best way to
and
eliminate
unused to the
civilian
ways of
resistance
men,
is
and the
to
weight of
lure
a
it into the
saddle
open.
and a rider.
You
But
fell
the
for the
masked
bait.
man was a kind
Too bad.
teacher.
Now, look here,
He was
it's my
gentle yet
constitutional
firm.
right to...
Silver was
Which
intelligent.
Constitution?
The stallion
The
seemed to
Constitution
sense
of
the
the United
desires of the
States
Lone
or
Ranger
Jeff
and did his
Davis?
best to cooperate.
insulting Yankee.
He
Remember
learned
your
quickly,
manners, sir.
and after
I
several
demand
days
a
of
trial.
training,
You just had it.
He was ready.
Follow me, Tonto. I'm
Post
going
a guard
after
over
Cavendish.
us, Sergeant.
Yes. Come on, Silver there.
We'll hang him in a minute.
No hoofs had ever beat the flames like those thundering hoofs of the great horse Silver.
Something tears at your face, scratching, and you realize that the whirling has
But the
stopped.
masked man and
You
Tonto
open
trailed
your
him
eyes.
relentlessly.
You're
with
lying
only a
on the
minimum
southern
of
bank
rest.
of the stream,
It took
out of
days
sight
to
of
cut
your
down the
enemies.
outlaw's lead,
Safe.
but at long last,
The
Cavendish
gravel
came
which has
to
scratched
view.
your
There he
feet
is.
now seems soft as new-picked cotton.
mighty stallion
The
responded
forest
with a new
around
burst
you
of
is a
speed.
garden of luscious beauty, reeking with a
Cavendish
heavy
fired wild
perfume of
shots over his
freedom.
shoulder
Even
until
the
his
whiz
gun
and
was
rattle of the
empty.
final charge of
The
grapes
powerful
screaming through the
blast was no match
treetops
for the charging
seems a
Silver.
benediction from the
Fear and
back
panic
of
filled the outlaw's face.
You leap to
He
your
heard
feet
the hoof
and run
blast
into the
ever
woods,
nearer.
south,
And then the masked man
towards home.
shouts.
I want you, Cavendish.
The masked man's avowed
Your neck
mission
is
was
swollen and
accomplished.
throbbing with pain.
The last of
You
the
carry it
Cavendish
cocked
gang
toward your
was
left shoulder as you
captured,
push
to be
through the
tried by
matted
law
brush.
and punished
All
for his
morning you
crimes.
tear your way through the
There were
undergrowth.
many
Your
others
jacket is
whose
tattered and your
criminal
face
plans were to
crisscrossed
be
with bloody
challenged by the
scratches
Lone
from the
Ranger,
brambles.
his faithful Indian
Every few moments
companion
you
Tonto,
stop.
and his great horse Silver.
You stop to listen for the sound of dogs, but all you hear is the sleepy buzz of the dogs. And the blood throbbing through your heated brain brings another thought, which is an insult. No dogs. You are not even important enough to the Yankees for dogs. It's nearly noon now, and for half an hour you've been plunging through a swamp, waist-deep in green ooze. Your neck hurts constantly. Your head throbs and your tongue is thick. It tastes like brown cotton. Gnats swarm before your eyes, catching in your eyelids. Mosquitoes buzz in your ears, drill deep in your hands and swollen neck. You cannot go any longer. You slow down. You stop. You reach toward a palmetto root for support, and it slithers from your grasp and slides softly into the water. Water moccasin. Fear finds you at last. Terror, which stood aloof when you fled the executioner's bullets, now embraces you with clammy unction. A water moccasin. That deadly cottonmouth. Now each branch and root seems to writhe under your glance. The swamp is undulating with certain death. You plunge on through the dark, stinking ooze, on and on, tripping, stumbling, never stopping, for terror rides your back, flogging you with a whiplash of fear.
Master Peyton, fiddle's a fiddle and jig time. You just drink this here yop tea, Master Peyton.
Thank you. Thank you. Jethro.
Yes, sir, Master Peyton.
What are you doing here?
I live here.
You live... Where am I? What happened?
I was paddling my dugout home through the swamp with a mess of catfish. I sees you lying out there on the bank in front of my cabin.
Jethro, I heard... I thought you were dead.
Of course you thought Jethro was dead. You knew he had consumption when you sold him. You knew he couldn't last long, and he wasn't earning his keep. His wife and his daughter had carried on some at first, but after a while they calmed down. At last you'd heard Jethro was dead.
You thought I was dead, Master Peyton? Why, sir, don't you know what's happened to me? I'm free. I'm free at last.
So, news travels fast. Even in the middle of this backwoods swamp, this lonely black has heard of Abe Lincoln's traitorous Emancipation Proclamation. And they believe it with the faith of children.
Yes, sir, I'm free. I expect pretty soon my woman, my little gal, come along and join me.
Yes, of course they will, Jethro.
How is they, Master Peyton? Is they well?
Yes, indeed, they're both fine. Your daughter's growing into a young beauty. Miss Farquhar's brought her into the kitchen, beginning to train her for the house.
Well, what do you think of that? And my woman, she still sings pretty?
Yes, Jethro. Sundays at meeting time, we can hear her all the way up to the big house.
That woman's voice is prettier than all the angels.
Jethro, I don't know how to say this, but I really was sorry about having to sell you. But there wasn't anything
I
else.
understand, Miles Peyton. Don't pay it no mind. I done forgive you long ago.
You have?
Sure. Don't the Lord tell us to forgive those who trespass against us? Don't the Lord promise us we shall be free? Don't you worry none about it, Miles Peyton. Here now, quiet that spot. Quiet, Trigger, quiet you. Must have heard Razorback in the brush. No, sirree. Look, Miles Peyton. There's a horse coming down the road.
A horse?
Look there. Soldier. One of our soldiers, Corporal, look like.
Jethro, you got to hide me.
Why's I got to hide you, Miles Peyton?
Don't ask so many questions, you insolent...
Miles Peyton. You forget, I'm free now.
Well, then, as an old friend of mine, please don't ask any questions. Just hide me. Don't tell that soldier anything.
Well, sure. I reckon I can do that for an old friend, Miles Peyton. Here. You get down on this here bed. That's it. Put the covers over the side. There you are. Snug as a tick in a rabbit's ear.
Remember, don't tell him anything.
Have you come this far just to be turned in by a wool-gathering black who talks crazy? If Jethro knew this gray-clad corporal was really a Union lieutenant, he'd guarantee his freedom by turning you in. Even so, he bears you a big enough grudge to turn you in anyway. Unless, of course, he's planning to dispose of you himself. Yes, that's it. That's why he talks so silly about the Lord and forgiveness. He's going to do you in himself.
Well, if you run into him, don't tell him I was looking for him.
Yes, sir. I'll remember not telling.
Just keep minding your own business, Uncle. You live longer. Get up there.
Yes, sir. I sure will. You can come out now, Miles Peyton. I declare, I don't understand none of this. You says not tell him you're here. He says not tell you he's been here. What's this all about, Miles Peyton?
Oh, it's nothing, Jethro. Nothing. I owe the man some money. I'm not ready to pay it yet.
Oh, I see. I wouldn't know about that. Money's something never bothered me like it bothers some. Money and me's always been strangers.
What's he mean by that? Money's never bothered me like it's bothered some. What's he picking up that knife for?
Jethro, what are you going to do with that knife?
Hmm? Oh, I was just fixing to slit up some of them catfish you got in the dugout. Look like you could do with a little food, Miles Peyton.
Oh, no, thank you, Jethro. I really got to be on my way. I want to get home by sundown if I can.
Sure wouldn't be no bother to cut up a couple calves.
No, thank you, old friend. If you'll just tell me which way I should go to get home.
Huh? Well, I don't rightly know, Miles Peyton. I reckon from the way the sun's reclining, be down the road that way. Quite a tolerable piece.
Yeah, that should be about right.
I never been back, you know. I never tried to go back since I've been free.
Yes, I know.
But I reckon it won't be long till my woman, my little gal, comes here to me.
Of course.
If you get back, Master Peyton, if and you see him, you tell him I'm here waiting for him, you hear?
Yeah, I'll do that, Jethro. I'll do that.
You get away from there fast, the shells of the road crunching under your muddy boots. That grinning savage standing in the doorway of the shack, the knife in his hands. And each moment until the road bends and cuts off the cabin from view, you fear he'll come after you, the knife poised to plunge in your back, to pay you for the thrust you gave him when you sent him away to die. But he's still standing, grinning foolishly and waving as you turn the bend. Now you feel safe, but only for a moment. Then you hear a sound. The sound of a horse. It must be the corporal in gray from the 5th Massachusetts Regulars. He's coming back down the road, searching for you, hounding you, coming to take you back to Owl Creek Bridge, back to a rope that won't break under your weight. You walk faster and faster, and always the sound is there, growing louder and louder. And you run as fast as you can down the shell road, which stretches clear to the horizon between the green walls of scrubby pines. How long have you been running down this endless road? It's dark now. Is it night? Or has the blood trapped in your head by the suffocating rope at last burst into your congested eyeballs and blinded you? Will it next pour from your swollen and bruised neck into your brain, stopping all sensation, instantly bringing to a welcome end this day of agony and flight? Ridiculous fantasies of fatigue and fear. You can see the darkness is the black of a sudden summer storm. That lightning flash clearly shows the white road ahead and the black silhouettes of trees along the sides. And since you're sure that you can see, the other senses return. You hear the rumble of the thunder. You feel the insupportable ache of your straining lungs, the leaden weight of your tired feet. And now the patter of rain, first washing the stinging sweat from your scratched and bitten face, now pounding harder, flowing down across your hatless head, matting your hair, slowing your headlong gait to a dog trot. Another flash of lightning directly overhead. For an instant, you see the soldiers of Owl Creek Bridge standing at the side of the road, rifles leveled, their eyes boring down the sights, aiming at your heart. Again, you're running, and the rain has turned to hail. Pellets as big as hominy beat down on you, pound your swollen, bruised neck, hammer at your countless cuts. Again, the lightning. And on the other side of the road, the gray-clad corporal sits astride his horse waiting for you.
No! No, you can't get me now! No!
This bolt of lightning strikes a tree ahead of you, and in the white blinding light stands Jethro, black and grinning, knife raised in the air.
No! No, Jethro! Forgive me! Forgive me!
He's gone. And now you see dangling from each tree along the road a noose swinging in the wind. Wherever you turn, wherever you look, a noose waiting for you. A noose which wriggles like a water moccasin. You are standing on the green lawn of your plantation before the high-columned entrance. The storm is over. The clouds are black and menacing all around the horizon. But through a break in the sky overhead, glorious sunlight streams down, bathing your garden and your house in heavenly light. You are home. And now you hear a rustle of crinoline, and down from the wide portico steps your beloved wife. She walks across the wide lawn, arms outstretched.
Peyton, my dear, you're back, just as you promised you'd be.
For this moment, you have endured the agonies of this day. And were those agonies multiplied 1,000 times, they would be small price for the benison of this breast, the sanctuary of these arms, the security of these lips. You step forward to fold your wife in your embrace.
The rope stretched tight, sang like a bowstring. Peyton Farquhar was dead. His body, with a broken neck, swung gently from side to side beneath the timbers of Owl Creek Bridge.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge by Ambrose Bierce in a radio adaptation written by Mr. Robeson. The part of Peyton Farquhar was played by Harry Bartell. The narrators were Bill Conrad and Bill Johnstone. Jethro was played by Louis Van Rooten. The special musical score was conceived and conducted by Cy Pure. Next week,
you are trapped in the pitch darkness of a ruined mansion, and groping for you, stalking you, is a homicidal maniac armed with a knife, from whom you must escape.
Next week, we escape with Joseph Hergesheimer's gripping story, Wild Oranges. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when we again offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.